Do you learn best by doing? And maybe you have a very hard time sitting still while you're learning a new thing. Well, then it's very probable that you have a strong kinesthetic intelligence. Hello, hejsan hej. I am Pixel Pia. And in my series about the 9 types of intelligence, the turn has come to the kinesthetic intelligence. So without further ado, let's get this video started. In this series about the 9 types of intelligence and the learning styles that you best can utilize if you are one or another type, the turn has come, as I said, to kinesthetic intelligence. But even though I just talk about one type in each episode, I believe that we are all capable of using all 9 types and all kinds of learning styles. If you haven't watched my earlier episode, I will link a playlist up in the eye. And I also recommend that you watch the episode about my H-mixed classroom, since I use a lot of examples from that in my videos. So what is kinesthetic intelligence? Kinesthetic intelligence refers to a person who learns by movement. They often enjoy to building things and to figure out how things work. With the kinesthetic intelligence often comes a very good eye-hand coordination. A kinesthetic learner often requires the whole body to be in movement to best learn, while what we call a tactile learner learn through fine motor movements. But for both the kinesthetic and the tactile learner, it's important that movement, bodily movement, is included. So what learning styles fit best for a kinesthetic learner? There are a few key points. But the easiest one to implement in a regular classroom is that instead of sitting down while learning, stand up. For some kinesthetic learner that is not enough. They actually have to move as they learn something. They have to walk or be in movement to best learn. Another important part is the experimental part. Instead of reading about how something works, do it. For example, instead of reading about a balance scale, make one and see how it actually works. The kinesthetic learner is often a spatial visual learner as well. They are very closely connected. I talked about the spatial learner in my last episode. One thing that's very effective is to make drawings as you are reading. Even just doodling as you are reading something can be helpful, since doodling is a movement. The kinesthetic learner has often a very hard time to focus for longer periods of times. So take breaks often. Hands-on is very important. And the movement. So for a tactile learner, it can be enough just to move your fingers as you read, tapping or follow along on the words. But the more kinesthetic learner might have to walk around, as I said. Change up things. Study in short intervals, change location, take a short break, get up and stretch. And just as the spatial learner, they have often problems learning step by step if they don't have a very clear picture of the end goal. Drawing is a very physical activity that really helps with the learning. Manipulatives and experiments are 2 other very helpful learning tools. So, how did the kinesthetic learner best work in my classroom? First of all, there was always movement in my room. Students went up to get something from a bookshelf or from their drawer. They moved to get into the group room and sit and work in silence. And we also had a very open room policy at my school. So students from the first, second grade classroom or the 6 years old could come in to borrow something or just for a visit. So there were a constant movement. So it wasn't so obvious for the kinesthetic learner to get up and move around. They sometimes, if they were reading something, actually took their book and walked around the classroom as they were reading. The few times we had longer lessons where we sat as a group and I went over something, we took frequent breaks. And at our school, we were lucky because one of the teachers in the 6 years groups were a Tai Chi instructor. So we all had learned Tai Chi. And we often took short breaks just to do a couple of Tai Chi exercises. And the students loved this, and they were often in charge of leading these short breaks. Just as the spatial learners, they used a lot of the manipulatives and the experimental material we had in the classroom. But I also made sure that they were in charge of some of the chores we had in the classroom. For example, they were the ones that had to get up and make sure that the whiteboard got cleaned off or take out the recycle bin when it was full and make sure that all the materials on the table got filled up, like pencils and erasers. So what are my general thoughts about the school system and the kinesthetic learners? Well, just like the spatial learners, they can have a very hard time in a traditional classroom. They are often very good at sports and dance and theater, but these are subjects that get cut first when the economy isn't good. But there are easy things that can be done. For example, have the opportunity to stand up as you study, or maybe just move around. And to take frequent breaks is good for everybody. In this series, I have also started to give a shout out to a fellow creator. And today's shout out goes to Crap My Dad Makes Me Watch. This is a channel where they review movies from the kids' perspective. And I really enjoy it. I will link Crap That My Dad Makes Me Watch in the description box and in the end cards. And I do recommend that you visit them. They are really entertaining. In my next episode, I will talk about the interpersonal intelligence. Until then, goodbye, or as we say in Sweden, hej då!